The streets went quiet and then erupted all at once when word spread that 50 Cent had been confronted by people connected to Wack 100. In the culture, anyone who knows the game understands that approaching 50 the wrong way is never a small move. This wasn't random gossip that fans could shrug off. It hit like a chessboard flipped mid-game. The kind of moment where every piece matters and every move has consequences. The instant the rumor of the confrontation surfaced, people labeled it a massive mistake. Not because anyone threw punches or chaos erupted, but because of how calculated 50 Cent's moves usually are. This situation wasn't about who yelled louder or stood closer. It was about who truly controls the consequences, who moves with precision, and who can make the streets feel the weight of their choices without lifting a finger. The energy surrounding the situation was tense, controlled, and dangerous, even without a single dramatic video or clip circulating, which is exactly why the story ignited so quickly. The context was everything. 50 Cent has spent years cultivating a reputation for moving smart, never rushing, rarely panicking, and rarely reacting in ways that give his opponents an advantage. His power is in his restraint, in the timing of his responses, and in the reach of his influence. That's why even the idea of a crew stepping to him caused heads to turn immediately. People on the streets understand hierarchy, understand respect, and understand the ripple effects of a single misstep. When someone with 50's memory and influence is confronted, the consequences aren't always immediate or explosive. Instead, they arrive quietly, subtly, and everywhere at once, leaving a trail that can't be ignored. This wasn't a story about a physical fight. It was about a miscalculation, a misread that carried weight far beyond what anyone initially saw. Fans and observers instantly recognized the implications. Approaching 50 Cent without fully considering his reach and history wasn't just risky, it was reckless. The true power in this world isn't measured by the loudest voice or the fastest fists. It's measured by strategy, patience, and influence, all of which 50 Cent has perfected over decades. And that's why the streets were talking. Not about the confrontation itself, but about the audacity of the move, the consequences that would inevitably follow, and the quiet understanding that in the world 50 Cent dominates, mistakes like this are remembered long after the moment passes.
Right, but a misread.
You got the drop on 50 Cent one time?
We thought we did until we got in there. Mike called us, told he was up there. I got up there. We got up there, we came in and strapped to they thigh, bullies on them, semis on them, magazine cartridges. I said, yeah, he ain't slipping.
Today's not the day.
Nah. 50 moved different. He moved different.
And did 50
I'm glad
see
that
you?
didn't happen. though. He see me. But he didn't know that's what we was on. We never approached him. I'm glad it never happened. Things worked out.
Told us that, not trying to throw shots at him. Sure. But you could not do nothing to him because he had that real.
What amplified the moment was the history between 50 Cent and Wack 100. Their names had crossed paths countless times over the years, through interviews, industry debates, subtle shots and conversations, and moments of tension that simmered just beneath the surface. Nothing ever fully boiled over, but the friction was always there, like an undercurrent waiting for the right moment to make itself felt. That's why this confrontation hit differently. It wasn't just a random encounter. It was a line being tested. And testing lines around someone known for patience, strategy, and careful calculation, that's risky business. The streets and culture immediately recognized the weight of it. Everyone knew that 50 Cent didn't act impulsively. He moves with precision, and pushing at him carries consequences far beyond the moment itself. Social media reacted accordingly, but not with panic or chaos. Instead, it responded with careful analysis. Clicks were replayed, statements were scrutinized, and every word was weighed for meaning. The silence surrounding the situation spoke louder than any shouting ever could. Fans noticed immediately that 50 didn't jump online, didn't start swinging through posts, didn't rant or threaten. He let the moment breathe. He allowed it to exist without reaction, and that's what made the encounter feel serious. When the expected noise doesn't come instantly, people know something else is happening behind the scenes, something calculated, something deliberate, and potentially more powerful than any immediate explosion of emotion. The tension wasn't in what was said or done, it was in what wasn't. The restraint itself carried the threat, the weight, and the message. 50 Cent's silence amplified the stakes in a way that words never could. The culture understood immediately. This wasn't just a confrontation, it was a lesson in strategy, patience, and power. And in that quiet, deliberate space, the streets whispered a truth that only insiders could fully appreciate. Sometimes the most dangerous moves are the ones you don't see coming, and the strongest signals are sent without ever lifting a finger.
Always respected Eminem, 50, and that was with us. So Suge came, he had some Mexican niggas. Now, we from New York. You ain't never seen a nigga with a tattoo on his forehead. Lights the cigar, and it's the shit about Suge. He light the cigar, and he trying to see what you gonna do. So Eminem, 50, everybody.
By the end of that first wave, the narrative had shifted completely. It wasn't about aggression anymore. It was about judgment, perception, and understanding the unspoken rules of the streets and the industry. People began dissecting every angle, saying the crew had underestimated the situation, underestimated how protection operates, underestimated how reputation travels faster than rumors, and most of all, underestimated how power works quietly, deliberately, and invisibly in the business. The tension wasn't measured in fists or chaos. It was measured in influence, in foresight, in the knowledge that one wrong move could ripple across the entire landscape. That's why the phrase big mistake stuck, not because of what had happened in that moment, but because of the weight of what could come after, the fallout, the quiet corrections, and the subtle demonstrations of authority that never announce themselves but are impossible to ignore. In this world, mistakes aren't always visible at first. They echo, they linger, and they teach the streets a lesson that no one forgets.
We were scared, but it was the Vibe Awards when we seen Suge Knight and Irv got it, and they walked past the trail. 50 just look at James Cruz, so he just taps James Cruz and say, "Yo, go buy 20 knives." Yeah, just go to the hardware store. It was about 20 to 15 of us, something like that. Suge Knight got like some crazy looking.
As more details circulated, the story shifted from shock to strategy, because everyone wanted to understand not just what happened, but why it happened, and why it had unfolded the way it did. Some said it was about respect, others said it was about ego, but anyone who truly understands the culture knows that confrontations never exist in a vacuum. They're born from context, from history, from the invisible currents that run under the surface. In this case, the context stretched back years. Commentary, interviews, subtle jabs, and behind-the-scenes tension that made the move look far less spontaneous and far more calculated than anyone on the outside realized. Intentional moves carry weight. They're measured, precise, and loaded with meaning. The streets began dissecting it, talking about how moments like this play out over the long term, how it isn't about the confrontation itself, but the ripple effects that follow. Who gets uncomfortable, who starts watching closer, who quietly distances themselves, who recalibrates their own moves without anyone noticing. These shifts rarely make headlines, but they change trajectories. And when someone like 50 Cent is involved, trajectories matter more than moments. He's known for letting situations unfold, letting the energy speak before he ever responds, and that deliberate patience makes people uneasy. Nervous energy spreads fast, and in this case, it moved like wildfire through the streets and social feeds alike. Another layer that kept the story alive was the calmness that remained publicly. No viral shouting matches, no messy leaks, just whispers, subtle reactions, and the sense that everyone was holding their breath. That quiet intensity made the situation feel infinitely more serious than chaos ever could. In the culture, loud drama burns out quickly, but tension that lingers quietly, that's the kind of tension that rewrites the game. And as the conversation deepened, everyone started asking the same question: who really gained from this? And of course, the answer wasn't clear, because when power operates silently, influence shifts in ways that no one immediately sees.
Serious video that vanished from InfoMind's channel. was about none other than 50 Cent. What InfoMinds did, he would show pictures of 50 Cent, different pictures of 50 Cent in regular settings, right? Until InfoMinds highlighted this guy that was in like every picture. That shit that happened to Slowbucks on that stage, InfoMinds documentary had footage from that Slowbuck situation. He was highlighting niggas and shit.
Fans quickly pointed out that too many crews confuse mere presence with actual power. Standing close doesn't mean control. Talking loud doesn't mean leverage. True power lives in access, alliances, timing, and patience. Approaching someone with reach and long memory without accounting for those factors can backfire without a single punch thrown, and the culture understands that instantly. Reactions aren't hyped, they're cautious, measured, analytical. This wasn't entertainment, it was instruction. As conversations unfolded, examples from the past came up, situations where confrontations didn't explode immediately, but still caused long-term consequences. Careers stalled, doors quietly closed, narratives shifted. Names didn't matter, the lesson did. Some figures don't need to respond publicly because their influence already speaks, and when influence speaks, it doesn't raise its voice. By this point, the moment wasn't about who confronted whom. It was about reading power in real time. Watching became the weapon, because watching applies pressure, and structural mistakes echo longer than loud ones. The industry collided with street logic in this case. Street logic says face-to-face resolution. Industry logic says document, observe, and move pieces quietly. When those logics clash, the fallout isn't immediate, but it's felt deeply. The silence that followed wasn't empty, it was loaded. No clapbacks, no interviews, no threats. Restraint became the loudest message, signaling control and making everyone uneasy. Crews acting on emotion often lose to individuals operating on strategy, because emotion wants immediate resolution and strategy wants advantage later. The culture sees that instantly. Timing, stakes, and setting matter more than bravado. Pressing someone at the wrong moment can close doors quietly, leaving damage that doesn't trend but lasts. As the story simmered, it became a cautionary tale, a reference point whispered in future conversations, teaching that misreading power can cost more than any public fight. Restraint shifted narratives without a single public word, and calm became the loudest response, proving that influence isn't announced, it's recognized. Confrontations don't need violence to be costly, and reputations built over years can be tested in seconds. Judgment, not toughness, was the metric here, and the streets walked away with a clearer understanding. Positioning determines outcomes long after the moment fades. Nothing dramatic happened, yet the echoes of this moment lingered, teaching a lesson about patience, awareness, and power that the cameras could never capture. In the end, it wasn't about winners or losers, it was about understanding the game, and those who did recognized that the smallest moves often carry the heaviest weight.